The Super Smash Bros. Series is notorious for its diverse selection of characters, and of everything we fans enjoy about the franchise, guessing who will be joining the lineup has always been the source of the biggest discussions. We look for patterns and we come up with fan rules to justify our thinking, but really, we don't need to. Over the years, series creator Masahiro Sakurai has gone on the record to discuss the creative process, what has changed game on game, and what has remained the same since the very beginning. That's what this new Source Gaming series is all about. I am NantenJex, and with the help of YouTuber Yoshiilla, we're going to teach you all the secrets of character selection for the Super Smash Bros. Franchise. In the last episode of Why Characters Got Selected, we looked at the original 12 fighters of the Super Smash Bros. Series. These characters are the Nintendo All-Stars, but just looking at those 12 isn't good enough to come to a conclusion on how characters got selected to appear as fighters. After all, it's not like those 12 were the only viable candidates for the game. There were others considered and planned to appear, but for one reason or another didn't make it in the end. These characters would have been considered with these same criteria as the ones who made it in, but in some way failed. And we think it's important, arguably more so, to understand failure in order to come to better conclusions in the speculation scene. So today, let's look at those fighters for Super Smash Bros. 64 that didn't quite make the cut. As this is the first video looking at cut characters, let's actually define what makes a character cut. Luckily for us, Super Smash Bros. 64 actually has at least one considered character for each of the 4 categories we want to cover. So let's kill 2 Falcos with 1 Smart Bomb and use the Smash 64 cuts as examples of each category. And speaking of Falco, the first category to cover are the characters who were momentarily considered or immediately dismissed. Sakurai almost certainly thinks of hundreds of characters in the initial planning phase, but that doesn't mean all of these characters could be considered cut. They're just fleeting thoughts that go through Sakurai's mind. However, it's worth mentioning still which characters did manage to be recognised by the director and why. This is where Falco comes back into the picture, but he's also joined by both Slippy and Peppy Hair. As it turns out, at some point during development, Sakurai considered having Falco, Slippy and Peppy as alternative costumes for Fox. This makes sense, as they are all part of the same team with the same training, and Fox's moveset is inspired by the R-Wing, something they all pilot. They are all roughly the same size as well. It's interesting to think that Sakurai was considering other characters as ults even as early as the first game in the series, seeing as the concept wouldn't actually happen until Smash 4 with the Koopalings and Alf. Just like with Fox, Star Fox 64 was very relevant at the time, with Star Fox 64 making a huge splash, and Fox was only chosen over the others because he was the player character in those games. But they were all as well known as each other, so why did they not make it? Well, according to a response that Sakurai gave as part of his reader response series on the Smash 64 website, I briefly considered having Fox's other colours be the other members of the Star Fox team during development, but I decided against it. Having an agile Slippy is kinda... So it seems that Slippy Toad was the one holding the team back. That's quite in character. While Sakurai is no doubt being a little cheeky, the point here is that while Falco could easily work over Fox, and maybe Peppy as well, Slippy didn't feel right to Sakurai being as fast and agile as Fox was. It wouldn't work one-to-one, and he couldn't have just Falco and Peppy as ults without Slippy, so the whole gang was dropped. This shows us that a character needs to feel like that character in order to make it into the roster. Not just any old moveset will work, it needs to make sense. Next, let's take a look at a character who was seriously considered for Super Smash Bros. 64. This category is for those fighters who Sakurai did want to put into the game, and who stuck in his mind for longer than a simple moment. However, for one reason or another, they never made it into the actual planning stages, meaning they didn't have any kind of work done on them whatsoever. And for this game, we have Fire Emblem's iconic tipper, Marth. Marth being considered for Super Smash Bros. 64 was revealed by Sakurai in an interview he held in the Fire Emblem 25th Anniversary book. In this interview, Sakurai said, "Well, I wanted to include Marth in the original Smash Bros. Game, as a sword-wielding character. But for Smash 64, there were some features we barely finished in time, and the 4 hidden characters were created only on the premise of being able to reuse some movements and part of the models of pre-existing characters. So in the end, Marth couldn't make it in. And that there is a pretty clear-cut reason as to why he didn't make it in. It wasn't an issue with licensing, popularity, moveset viability, or a technical limitation. It was simply normal time constraints keeping him back. This is going to be a recurring theme for a lot of characters going forward, both in this game and future games, so bear that in mind. But why was Marth considered in the first place? Simply put, Sakurai felt that Fire Emblem was a series that should be included. Fire Emblem was a franchise boasting multiple popular titles, and I thought there was more than enough value in including a character from Fire Emblem. Now let's move away from those who were simply considered to the ones who are actually planned at one point. And planned is the key word here, as these characters were planned / possibly cut during development, meaning they hit all of the criteria required to get on the roster, but due to development related restraints like time or resources, they couldn't get any or very little work done on them. And the character that fits this category is actually one we mentioned briefly in the last video, the psychic Pokemon Mewtwo. Sakurai has actually stated very little about Mewtwo's development, offhandedly mentioning him in a response to his "If There Was a Smash 2" poll. He mentioned that Mewtwo was planned, but had to be cut due to a variety of issues. And that is all we know. There is no data in the game's files for him, so we don't know how far along he actually got. If we were to speculate though, it could be that Sakurai only wanted one additional Pokemon, and Jigglypuff was easier to develop than Mewtwo was, allowing the pink balloon to push her way past the legendary Pokemon. But that is just speculation. Finally, we get to the last category for cut characters, and these are the ones we know for sure had work done on them, but were unfortunately cut during development. We actually have two characters who fit this category this time around, both the big, lovable villains of their respective franchises. We have Super Mario's Bowser and Kirby's King Dedede. Both of these characters are prominent parts of their series, and for the companies in general, being the biggest villains for both Nintendo and HAL Laboratories respectively. So why were they cut? Well, we don't know for sure, but it's likely a safe assumption that it was simply time restraints once again. In another reader response, a fan asked Sakurai if it was true what his friend told him, that Bowser and King Dedede are super hidden unlockable characters in the game. Sakurai, unfortunately, revealed that his friend was a complete liar. No, it's not true, but we did actually work on them and they were partially complete at one point in time. So, while it's not much, this seems to confirm the duo was in fact worked on during development and simply cut at some point. While that does it for Dedede, we actually have one other indication of Bowser's status in a Nintendo Power interview with his creator, Shigeru Miyamoto. In this interview, dated November 1998, just 3 months before Super Smash Bros. Was launched in Japan, Miyamoto mentions that Bowser would be in the game, which leads credence that he was under development late into the game's life before being cut. And that does it for all the cut characters planned for Super Smash Bros. 64, at least as of August 2020. This is all we know, but who knows what might come out in the future to reveal more cut characters. Hopefully, Sakurai can confirm some cut additions once more and dispel the schoolyard rumours of characters like he did with Bowser and King Dedede. The internet certainly needs that, as the original Super Smash Bros. Game was rife with misinformation for a very long time. People stating that characters like Sigurd, Meowth, Pit, and Princess Peach were all planned at one point, even though there is no evidence at all for these claims, making them misinformation. This is even going on to this day, as someone commented on the last video that Meowth was planned for the game instead of Mewtwo, which is just completely wrong. Thankfully, it has become less common as the internet develops, but let's not dwell on those fakers and instead look toward the future, to the next game in the series, Super Smash Bros. Melee for Nintendo GameCube, as we look into why its memorable cast of fighters made the cut. We hope you enjoyed this fact-based Super Smash Bros. Video, and you can confirm that to us by liking, commenting, and sharing this video across the internet. And make sure you don't miss the rest of this series by hitting that bell icon and subscribing. I want to give a special thank you to Yoshiilla, who did the editing for this video. A link to his Twitter and YouTube channel is down in the description, and if you enjoy Let's Plays of Nintendo games, you should check out his channel. He has so much content covering so many games that your brains will be fed for months. We also want to thank our patrons. The $5 plus patrons are on screen right now. These guys got to see this video a week early, and they'll get that treatment for every video in the series. So if you want that privilege as well as a number of others, then just donate $1. That is all it takes. Now with that, we hope you have a great day, and that you always remember to return to the source.